You should know how you're going to finish before you start. That was a quote from the late Charles Neal. He was a period furniture maker out near the Shenandoah Valley in Virginia. His YouTube channel is still up, and you can look at some of his work and some of his tips and tricks. Link in the description. I'm talking about finishes today, and the kind of finishes that I use on a lot of my projects, because a lot of my projects, before and after I had a camera, were period style pieces, and I wanted to do the finishes in period style. A lot of them are done that way. This is a smattering of what I use, but it's most go-to products for me. This is not the be-all, end-all. It's not the ultimate anything. It's just how I like to do things. So, nice big lineup of cans and sprays and stuff like that. Let's come on down and I'll show you, give you a rundown on why and how I use each one of these. Let's start out with my number one go-to finish for the projects I mostly do, which are either replicas, antique replicas, or I do a little restoration work here and there, and that is shellac. Now I have both clear and amber shellac flakes. I can mix my own cut if I want, but for go-to projects to get, I just love this stuff. This Bullseye, Zinsser Bullseye shellac, not a sponsor, in both clear and amber. The clear, as the name implies, is just a clear finish. You lay this down, or in some cases you can spray it down because it comes in spray cans. And that doesn't really change the color of the wood, just a little bit, because when you wet wood it changes. The amber, on the other hand, let's use the term pre-ages it. So if you have cherry, walnut, mahogany woods like that, it adds a decade of age that wasn't normally there. It's not really staining the wood, it's just darkening it a little bit more. Because if you take those woods and you put them in your house and stick them in the room, over the years they're going to age and oxidize down to a nice dark finish. And with cherry it can become a very nice iridescent finish. So clear shellac. This also makes a really great sanding sealer. One coat of this to sand a little bit before you put some stain down. Amber shellac for a little bit of color, a little bit of aging. And the spray, which only comes in clear that I've been able to find. So if I want to spray amber shellac, I use these Prevail spray kits. Now I've used these for years. It's a jar for your finish, a propellant can with a pickup tube that goes down inside the jar, and a little spray top, and you can spray your workpiece. I actually painted a motorcycle with these once many years ago. When you're done, if you want to preserve your finish, it comes with a lid, and you screw the lid down on there nice and tight, and that preserves your finish. So shellac is the number one go-to. Lay down a coat, you rub it down with 3/0 stainless steel, steel wool, 3/0 steel wool, another coat steel wool, another coat steel wool. This starts building up a nice, clean, flat, or satin, glossy, clean, satiny smooth finish. So it's not bumpy. It just basically gives you a nice, clean, satin smooth finish. I use this to give me my satin finish, because otherwise this will dry glossy. Next one, boiled linseed oil. Ancient finish, been around for a long time. Comes from the flaxseed. Flax is the seed that grows flax, which is the plant we get linen from, hence linseed oil. It takes a while to dry. Do not use raw linseed oil, it will never cure. Linseed oil, boiled linseed oil, does cure to a fairly hard finish. It doesn't dry. It's a room temperature polymerizing oil. That's why it catches on fire if you roll it up in rags and throw it in a can or a bucket. It starts polymerizing, and that generates heat, which can cause a fire. Now, probably heard my message. For the first coat, add to that 50% mineral spirits. Thin it out with another VOC. It goes a little deeper into the wood, goes deeper into the fibers, and then you can put your subsequent coats over that. Again, 3/0 stainless steel, steel wool. So those two finishes. Now, if they're going to stand alone and not be in harm's way, I'll usually leave it like this. But if it's going to be in harm's way, tabletop, something like that, the next step is to put on a polyurethane, and I've been using this polyacrylic from Minwax, not a sponsor. Really, really great stuff. Again, goes on quickly, dries quickly. Rub it down with the steel wool, and you get that, still get that satin finish, and you can build as many coats as you want. For larger projects, I'll use the indoor-outdoor Spar urethane, water-based, for larger projects, which is also a nice tough finish. This can be used outdoors, but I don't use it for outdoors. For outdoors, I'll use the satin Spar varnish or semi-gloss, depending on what the project is, that is oil-based. And that's the one I use for outdoors finishes that are going to sit in the sun, easy to renew, protects the wood, and lasts a pretty good long time. Now on to stain. Like I said, we don't particularly like to stain the wood. We like to let it speak for itself. Mara makes a lot of her 18th century spinning and weaving tools out of poplar. And the nice poplar would have been a wood used readily back then. It's also been used a lot for secondary woods in furniture, in period furniture. Poplar is great wood. It doesn't have a great look if you put a clear finish on it. So she stains or paints her small looms and things like that. And for stains, and I'll use these as well for some projects, she has a wide variety of aniline dyes in storage in the basement, and we have a little finishing room down there. So aniline dyes, Minwax is dead to us since they changed their formulation. So what we're using now and finding great luck with is General Finishes, not a sponsor, water-based stains. Now, as always with a blotchy kind of thin or a softwood, put on some sanding sealer first before you put on the stain. If you look in this picture here, this is a hutch that we built for the kitchen. It's painted with milk paint. It's what you call a country kitchen piece, although it's just a hutch cupboard. And we wanted it in milk paint. So again, General Finishes offers milk paint in the can ready to go. Great stuff. You can also buy milk paint powder form, mix it with warm water, let it set for a while, and mix it again, and that also makes a great milk paint. Doesn't keep quite as well as the water-based from General Finishes. Okay, big guns. What do I do for big projects? Well, we have a big project coming up. We're going to paint the cabinets in the kitchen. And I bought an Airless paint sprayer that is designed specifically to use with thick latex paints out of the can. We're going to use an acrylic paint because cabinets. Airless, AC operated. I have not used this yet, so I don't have a review. I'll have a review at some point, I think. But I got this specifically for doing the kitchen cabinets and maybe some other projects at some point. Maybe a whole wall, who knows. And for bigger stuff in the shop, I have this. This is the first iteration of the Rockler Airless paint sprayer. Where's the hose in? Blows the air in here. This thing works amazingly well. They still sell it. They've made some changes in design, but they still sell it. It's basically the same unit. The last time I used this was a bed frame that I restored for my mother-in-law. That it was pre-World War II, 20s or 30s. It was kind of scratched up and dinged up and chipped up, and I touched everything up so the color all matched, and then shot 5 coats of shellac on top of it. Did a marvelous job. It's still, as far as I know, it's still standing in good stead. Did I really say that? But this is for the bigger jobs. I also have a set of HVLP spray guns that I can use for other projects, you know, the automotive guns. That's about it. So One last note about finishing. And this comes from my experience in the automotive world. It's not how much finish you put on, it's how much you leave on. When doing a car, you put 6, 7, 8 coats of clear, and you cut and buff that down, right down, take 3 or 4 coats off. Same with this. When you put your finish on, you're going to take some finish off to sand and smooth and clean and wax. So it's not what you put on, it's what you leave on. I have a piece of 1/4 inch flat sawn cherry here, and I'm just going to do a quick demo of my shellac finish, which is I'll do clear shellac, wipe on, amber shellac, wipe on, and then the same finishes over here with the polyurethane on them. It'll be all semi-gloss. I'll demonstrate the finish before and after you use the steel wool on it. Hopefully the lighting in here will show the differences in the surface. Well, let's get started on that. Sanded it to 220 all the way down. I don't know how many are aware of this when cherry comes out of the tree. Before it oxidizes, it's pink, pinkish or pink. So I've got 4 spots here. Clear, amber, clear, amber. I'll leave this with just the shellac on it, and then I'll put polyurethane on this after everything. I'm going to go ahead and put 2 or 3 coats on here, maybe 3 coats of each, and then show you one of the steps after putting a coat on and then using the steel wool to bring it down to that sheen I was talking about. Let's start with the clear. This is kind of empty. Remember when these were free? Maybe they're still free where you live, but they're not free at our big box stores. So it's just alcohol. So I've got some gloves over here, but I'm not going to use them. Fold it over. Doing a wipe on with a lint-free shop cloth. Okay. So here's an example of what I was talking about. Clear amber, raw wood. Now these have to dry, like I said before, I can demonstrate the difference between using just putting shellac on or do some steel wool treatment afterwards. I'll probably do 3 coats, and I'll show you that after the 2nd coat, but before I put on the 3rd coat. 3 coats of each. I have not rubbed it down yet. You see from this picture what the shellac can look like when you just rub it on and just let it dry. Let the alcohol evaporate. You get what looks like brush marks and stuff like that, which is easily removable by using the steel wool I was talking about. So let's give it a rub with the grain. There we go. Still missing a couple of spots. There we go. From this picture you can see all those ribs and bumps and stuff are gone from the workpiece. Next is to spray on the polyurethane that I like to use, the acrylic polyurethane stuff, from polyacrylic, whatever they call it. Cover this part here and spray this down, then come back and do a rub down of that. All rubbed out, as you saw. Now spray on the polyurethane, finish, I'll do about 3 coats, rubbing in between coats, and then I'll show you the finished result. And then we'll talk about why I use this kind of finish for the most part, and show you a large project I did with this finish that came out very nice. So, spray time. Coat number 1. See you in a bit. And it's been a bit. So this is the finished look. Now it doesn't look like there's a lot of difference. I don't know how well it will show up on camera, but let me bring it up close. This is that nice satin kind of smooth finish I was talking about. This is the polyurethane. This is amber, clear, polyurethane, amber, clear, no polyurethane. You still get this finish, but if this is not going to be in harm's way, it's good to just leave it like that. Darken it some more if you want, add more. If it's going to be in harm's way, put on the polyurethane. And on top of the polyurethane right now, I have some Johnson paste wax, but one of my other favorite go-to is Renaissance paste wax for polishing furniture. So why do I use this finish? I mean, everybody's using these wonderful chemical finishes and Osmo stuff and whatever. Why do I use this specifically? I'm lazy? Okay, I'm not really lazy, but it's quick. Everything dries quickly. It's tunable. Some of it's reversible. And it leaves a really nice finish. And if you're doing a replica of an antique piece, or if you're restoring an antique piece, you got to go with this stuff to protect the piece, but make it really look like it's supposed to look. Now, here's an example. Look at these two pictures. And look at them for a while. This pencil post bed I built years ago. Charles Neal, the guy I mentioned at the beginning of the video, this is his, basically his design. I put it together the way he puts them together. And this bed is finished exactly as you saw now. The only difference is I used a wipe-on oil-based polyurethane as opposed to a water-based polyurethane. Also, don't be concerned about the inside of the rails. Charles suggests, and he recommends highly, making the rails out of two pieces of 5/8 poplar, grain to grain, twisty grain to twisty grain like that, so it won't flex. And there's a 1/4 inch laminate of cherry around 3 sides. It's not a veneer, it's actually a 1/4 inch thick. And then a trim detail, a edge detail, where those two pieces of cherry come together on the top and the bottom of the rail, which basically makes the join line disappear. And that's what I did with this. I used his technique. Also, a little secret technique of his is once you assemble it together, use Bondo in the holes where the nuts are for the bed bolts. And that way they're never going to move and you're never going to lose them. And you can back out the screws and put them back in again. So that's my quick and dirty finishing technique using old materials, old style materials and whatever. So until next time, make great things out of wood and experiment with finishes on your projects.